Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati, the man who rules the world, takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. One of my viewers wanted to know why societies don't want to invest in their young men. And the answer to that question is very simple. Societies don't want to invest in their young men because many who control the infrastructure of big business and government are very greedy. And because these individuals who control big business and government are greedy, they don't want to invest in the men because they won't be able to pull a profit from any investment in those men economically. Now, when it comes to most of these people who are a part of government and big business, they want to invest in women way before the feminist movement because there were individuals who were wealthy, like the Rockefellers, who wanted to invest in the feminist movement because they wanted to profit off of the money they believed they would make off women, and they wanted to go out here and change the person who controlled the economy from men to women because they knew that women were emotional, they knew that women were impulsive, and they also knew that women were extremely gullible. And because women were impulsive, emotional, and gullible, what they would do is not look to produce anything that would build long-term wealth like a man would. No, what would happen is the woman would go out here and look to consume items provided for by corporate America and institutions like Madison Avenue in Hollywood, which would tell that woman that she would need these products, and because she was emotional and gullible and naive, she would go out here and look to impulsively spend money on these items, always thinking about consuming the next product without ever thinking about going out here and producing anything of value. So instead of the money going to men who would go out here and invest the money, what they wanted to do is invest in the woman in the hopes of making profits for their businesses. And they wanted to go out here and make profit off of this woman and her impulses because they know they couldn't make that money on a man. Now, when money is in the hands of a man, it oftentimes has higher value, and it has higher value because the man is going to look to invest his money, and that's because of the natural mindset that God has given him. Now, God gave a man the mindset to be a builder, and as a builder, he knows how to take his money and invest it into things that will allow him to build wealth. And as he builds that wealth, what he wants to do is, one, create a savings to be able to invest in larger items that are more expensive, such as homes and things like property that will allow him to have wealth building assets. And two, he wants to build up a savings so that he can have money to retire on when he gets older. And finally, he wants to have money available so that he can pass it on to his children so that they can have an inheritance and a legacy. However, the wealthy don't want to see a man be able to build that kind of wealth, because if a man builds that kind of wealth, what that means is that man is going to have the economic power to be able to compete with those who are a part of the wealthy, a part of corporate America and big business, and also look to compete to gain political power in government. So they don't want to invest in the young man because the young man is somebody who is looking to start building that foundation at an early age as related to wealth, and they don't want that man to get economic power because economic power means that these individuals, once they rise, they can go out here and challenge most of these older wealthy individuals for their power. And what these individuals want to do is maintain their power base because they don't want to see their power base usurped like it was as related to the wealthy class when new money started to rise in the late 19th and early 20th century. In the late 19th and early 20th century, the old money basically started to see their institutions challenged. And as they saw their institutions challenged and they saw their families getting challenged as related to being an economic and political base, what they wanted to do was be able to secure their power base by undermining other young men's ability to go out here and make a living. And this is why we see many companies looking to invest in women more than they do men, because they know if they invest in the woman, what they can do is be able to create a generation after generation of consumers, and this generation after generation of consumers aren't going to go out here and not build wealth, but go out here and create debt. And as those generations of women go out here naively and going out here falling for whatever gullible scheme that these individuals present, these gullible women will go out here and buy on their impulses and look to sate their insecure feelings. And as they look to sate their insecure feelings, what's going to happen is, again, as these women go out here and spend money, they are racking up debts with student loans as they chase education to build clout and to also look to qualify for other jobs in corporate America. They will go out here and build debt as related to going out here and trying to buy the latest clothes and as related to getting social currency. And they also go out here and spend lots of money because a lot of women don't know how to really assess prices. And because they don't know how to really assess prices, because women are not critical thinkers, they wind up paying twice as much than a man would. And as these women spend, what they do is continue to drive themselves further into a debt hole they can't get out of. And what's happening as they drive themselves into debt is that these wealthy people form a codependent relationship with the woman and maintain control over the woman and maintain control over the economy. However, what's been happening over the last 40 to 50 years is that this codependent relationship really hasn't been working out for the wealthy, and it hasn't been working out for the wealthy because most of the wealthy are finding themselves being overwhelmed by all of the debt being created by all of these women that they invested in. And all these women, basically, they are out here and they're creating all this debt. But what's even worse is that as these corporations and businesses have hired all of these women, what these women have done is basically stifle competition. And as they've stifled competition, what has happened is many of these businesses cannot create the new innovations or new products that would allow them to be able to grow. And as both of these codependent entities are basically tethered to each other, they have driven America's economy into a major state of decline and even driven the global economy into a state of decline, all because many of the wealthy wanted to invest in women in order to maintain their power, not understanding the only power that will be maintained is the power of Jesus, the Son of the Most High God. And these institutions basically will crumble into dust, and will crumble into dust for the same reason many other institutions of other empires crumbled into dust, because the greed of the wealthy made it where they did not want to invest in their men, and did not want to invest in their men because they feared having to compete with the young men, feared that the young men would go out here and create new innovations and new products that would lead to them being replaced. But the whole thing is that in history, men are supposed to be accepting of the fact that we are all going to die. And since we're all going to die, we have to accept that, again, we have to pass things on and pass things on, because nothing in this is about this life. No, our whole life is all about looking to receive God's gift of salvation, but the greedy are so invested in this world that they're not thinking about investing in the young men and allowing them to have their time. And that's why we have this society where they don't want to invest in young men, and that's what's leading to generations of young men turning into men in crisis. The main reason why so many young men today are frustrated and angry is because they feel like they can't get an opportunity. They can't get an opportunity because our society does not invest in our young men, does not really look to give our young men anything as related to setting them up for success. No, we've basically abandoned our young men because a group of greedy old men basically think that they're going to live forever. And because they think that they're going to go on forever and their names are going to go on forever, they basically ironically have led to their names winding up being on the road to being forgotten. Because if nobody invests in those men have no reason to care about preserving another man's legacy because that other man didn't do anything to support that man. And because that man did nothing to support that man, those men have no incentive to help preserve another man's legacy. No, all they have is a reason to let this whole civilization fall completely apart. And that's why you see so many men just sitting back as the America and Western countries are going into a state of decline. Many of these men have no problem letting things fall because nobody built these men up. And because no one built these men up, this is why these men just don't care, because no one invested in these men when they were boys. Nobody invested in these boys when they're growing into adolescence, and nobody invested in these boys when they were young men. And that's why you have men, again, having no reason to care about anything, and women themselves aren't going to care themselves because once they get driven into debt, they have no problem letting the civilization fall because as they are naturally hypergamous, what they're going to do is look to monkey branch over to the invaders and be citizens as related to the conquerors. That's what the wealthy really don't understand because they're so caught up in their greed. And because they're so caught up in their greed, they can't connect dots and see how they are their own worst enemy, and their lust for money and power and investment in this world is going to lead to their destruction because instead of them looking to invest in the kingdom of heaven where nothing rots and everything is eternal, and we need to focus on the spiritual because we're only here for a finite amount of time, and in that finite amount of time we need to be focused on getting our spiritual lives in order and getting our spiritual lives in order to receive God's gift of salvation so that we could receive eternal life. No, these men are so caught up in the world and caught up in what they have right now that they can't see that what they have right now will be trampled on as the dust of the desert, which is something I talked about in the ebook story I called The Saga of Masticacious, a story of a wealthy king who basically got so greedy that he looked to challenge the Egyptian gods when they were the Heliopolitan gods, and this led to the destruction of his nation of Acacia. And the same thing happens to many of these wealthy individuals. They want to go out here and be so greedy, and again, not seeing how their greed is going to lead to them reaping what they sowed, later than what they sowed, greater than what they sowed, and a bitter harvest as they see all of what they have amassed not being preserved by a family of individuals, because these individuals don't invest in family because it's all about them and their narcissism. No, they don't look to invest in their families, and they don't look to invest in the men in their societies, not understanding it's the men in a society that preserve things because men are logical, men are builders, and if an institution looks out for the men will preserve that society. But if you don't take care of your men, then your society isn't going to be maintained. And that's the mistake many of these wealthy individuals make. They think that they're going to go on forever in their own vanity, and they think it's all about them. And they think everyone is beneath them, so they think, oh, we can invest in these women to include them, and they'll preserve things. But again, the natural hypergamous nature of the woman is not to preserve anything, because if she doesn't have a moral position as related to society to be loyal and submissive to those men, then she doesn't care about anything. And with the feminist indoctrinated woman, she doesn't care about anything except trying to maintain power like a man, but as she looks to get that power, she doesn't care about anything in society, and because she's outside of her position as a helpmeet, she doesn't help meet the needs of that society by raising boys to become men at the side of a father and be a part of God's order. What this woman does is look to be a part of this corporate order, and this corporate order, all she's about is greed, and that greed, again, is the thing that leads to us not investing in our young men, investing in them to as boys to grow up to become responsible, conscientious men in God's order. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what family is all about. Family is all about investing in the boys to become healthy men, but we haven't done that, and again, all because many are greedy, and because of their greed, they don't want to share in investing in our men so that they can give more to society. That's what we need in our society, is an investment in men. I talk about this as the final solution to the man crisis in my book, The Man Crisis, a final solution that could possibly stave off all of the impending issues that will come from investing in women, which is an endless stream of credit card debt, student loan debt, financial debt, because many women, they cannot really manage anything without the leadership of a man to provide her with structure, and that's where our society is going, because again, corporate America invested in women, and now we see institutions like Hollywood going broke, big business going broke, because they don't have men to create innovations, men to create different things, than new products, and our whole overall Western society is stagnated because we have not invested in our men, have not invested in our young men to have the time to create new and different things that will take society on another level. We really need that investment in men if you want a society to grow. If you want a society to grow and you want a society to really start to move ahead, you have to invest in your men, because if you don't invest in your men, what's going to happen is your civilization is going to fall like the Roman Empire, the Babylonians, and the Egyptians. They all fell because they didn't invest in their men. And when you don't invest in your men, you wind up with a nation that will become another footnote in history. Now, this was a video requested by one of my viewers, and if you want to request a video, you can send a donation for a minimum of $15 to the Cash App or the PayPal by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to learn more about why it's important to invest in men, you can pick up my books, The Man Crisis and The Woman Crisis. They are available in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com, and they're also available at other online booksellers like Draft Digital, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.